From my personal experience and from what I've also heard from other people, it really is more to do with the community and the connections that you make if you're able to be friendly or to have friends. That's like the majority of it. And then the rest is like skills and genitalia. But like the very beginning and the most weighty part is who you are as a person.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Hi, and welcome to Ask Us Anything. I'm Meshai.
And I'm Fin. Episode 9. We're on episode 9. We're coming up on double digits.
Wow, we've done 9?
Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Okay. Feeling a little fancy.
We're getting older.
What?
We're getting old. Well, you are. You are. I'm not.
My clock is going backwards.
Okay. All right. Perfect. I actually have a birthday next week. But
when's your birthday?
July 4th.
July 4th? Mine's June 26th. I'm a couple days before you.
So yours is like right now.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you too. Look at us being all twinsies almost. I like it.
And looking at us learning each other right here live on the podcast. Amazing. Well, we've got some exciting questions today, but before we do, a couple of quick things. First of all, maybe just for anybody who's brand new and hasn't heard about who either of us are, maybe in 10 seconds, what makes you qualified to give advice about this stuff, or at least opinions. Advice is a strong word.
Well thought out thoughts.
That's right.
Okay. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been in my own E&M journey since 2019 and have learned a lot, messed it up a lot. Also, I think that's mostly it. I'm also a life coach for Expansive Connection. If you want to head over there and take a look at our offerings and our ability to coach people. We're a pretty dynamic team. And I've been doing all of this since 2018.
Wonderful. And on my end, also links to everything you just kind of mentioned, Expansive Connection and all of that are in the podcast show notes for anybody listening. On my end, I've been hosting the Normalizing Non-Monogamy podcast for like 350 episodes, 6 years. So I've talked to a lot of people, got a lot of anecdotal evidence, and also Emma and I have been exploring non-monogamy since 2000. Officially 2007, but let's say we really got into it in like 2010. So almost 15 years we've been swimming in these waters with experiences from swinging to polyamory and a lot of in between. So excited to be here today. We got 2 questions about swinging, but not strictly. And also wanted to throw a request out there to all of you for questions for the July and beyond, but we'd love for you to send in some questions. You can send us a voicemail on our website under the Contact Us tab. Again, links will be in the show notes. And also in July, we're going to have a special guest. Dr. Marie Tuin is going to come on and help us answer questions about compersion. She just wrote a brand new book called What is Compersion? And you can find links in the show notes as well, along with a discount code to save yourself 25% off the book. So do that. It's amazing.
I'm excited to meet her.
Yes, Marie is amazing. Her and I co-host speed dating here in the East Bay every month. And so we just rocked that out last week. We had 75 people come out.
That's really good.
And we had a hell of a good time. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So on to our first question, perhaps. This one is, we decided to talk about penises first. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what we decided.
Yeah. Well, I would say if you're uncomfortable with hearing the word penis, cock, or dick, you're not going to enjoy the next 10 to 15 minutes because we got a lot of that coming at you.
We're doing a disclaimer. We have a penis disclaimer on this episode.
Yep. Okay. Penis disclaimer. All right. So this question. Oh, also for the person who sent this in, they emailed it. I tried to email you back and then it bounced. And then I tried like 3 different variations of your email and I could not figure it out. So here is your answer. Thank you for the question. Sorry, I couldn't email you back. All right. My question is, do men with larger genitalia fare better in the lifestyle? By this, I mean have greater overall success in attracting women in addition to their primary partner than someone with smaller or average-sized genitalia. All other things, looks, personality, etc., being equal. While I understand that I'm largely asking about anecdotal evidence and personal observation over the years, presumably you have formed an overarching opinion as whether the answer is yes or no. If the answer is yes, to what extent do you think this is a factor in a male's success or failure? Great question.
Good question.
The long debated does size matter question. And I'm excited because we have a way to cheat at these. We can actually go to our community and get lots of anecdotal evidence. So we did that. We went in and posted this question and we got a whole bunch of comments on the question. So we're going to read through some of those. But first, before we do, Meshai, what's your opinion? You've explored swinging a bit.
Yeah. I don't really think it matters as much as like society-wise we like to give it weight. But there are size queens, like that term exists for a reason. So there are some people who just really do like a lot. And then there's some people who will look at that and be like, no. And it would be too much and they're okay with passing on that. And then I think someone in the comments said, what was it? It was boyfriend dick and vacation dick.
Yep.
Killed me. I laughed so hard. That was brilliant.
Well, so the idea there is right that it was, so basically what he shared was somebody told him like last year that he has what they called boyfriend dick, which is the size that they could come to or wanted to enjoy all the time, versus the vacation dick, which maybe for this example was a little bit bigger, but maybe it's sort of like a treat that is not what they want all the time.
There you go.
There you go. Also, I wanted to say up front here, right, that we're not saying any size is better than any other. And I think, well, this will come through in some of the comments that people shared, because I think, as you said, like there's often this trope that bigger is better. And what we're about to talk about is that that's definitely not been the case for some of the people who responded. So,
and I think also specifically for the lifestyle, from my personal experience and from what I've also heard from other people, it really is more to do with the community and the connections that you make. If you're able to be friendly or to have friends, that's like the majority of it. And then the rest is like skills and genitalia. But like the very beginning and the most weighty part is who you are as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, well, which actually maybe that's one of the fun first comments I was going to read here, which is this came from somebody in our community again, just said, I'm not sure how someone with a bigger cock would have an advantage ahead of time unless you had a group lineup and compared all of them before pursuing someone. Otherwise, it's just a guessing game until you see it, or until you receive the dick pics, I suppose. So...
Is this like referring to like a cock lineup?
Yeah. Yeah, you line them all up and then you pick which one you want. Which I think is a valid point, right? Like how it's not super often that you see or you get to sort of window shop before you play. But I guess it can also happen in some of these spaces. You might be walking around naked and might get some attention that way. But yeah, I think generally speaking, you show up into these spaces and the first things people get to experience are your personality, the energy you're bringing to the party rather than like how big you are. Yeah.
I agree.
Maybe a couple other readings from the Book of Penis.
Go for it. Book of Penis.
This one was actually from one of the guys in our community. He said, I'm not sure if, he said, I guess I'll be the first to respond here by saying there is no advantage. I'm not sure if maybe there are other factors that would prevent me from having greater success. But as an individual with what is considered to be larger than average size, 7.5 to 8 inches, I can say I have struggles with meeting others in the lifestyle. I know it's not from lack of trying. There's plenty of effort on my part. But until I can build a community around myself that would help me sustain ongoing, consistent group around me, I will continue to have to work hard at it. So far, the struggle is there and is very real. No added advantage thus far.
Okay.
Which I think really confirms what you and I were just saying, that right, you can have the biggest cock on the planet, but if you aren't, there's more to it than that.
Yes.
There's much more to it than that.
Yes.
And I think then it gets confirmed here by quite a few people. This person said, this is somebody who uses she, her pronouns. She said, for me personally, it would be no advantage or disadvantage. I don't choose my partners based on size. And I generally know nothing about their penises at first, which again, I think is kind of reaffirming what the other person said a few minutes ago. Next one says here, all cocks are delicious if the people they are attached to don't suck as human beings. I will gladly suck on a tiny soft cock with the right person whose focus is on good sex and connection. I'm turned off by a man's preoccupation with his size, erection capacities, etc. Center on pleasure for you and your partner and see what comes up, or just go down again. Also, dildos, hello. So, yeah, bringing in the idea. Well, and this person then says as well, I'd also like to add that a penis is not the only way to provide pleasure, and that the size of someone's penis does not determine what they're able to do with their hands and mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these reaffirming it. I'm going to read a few more because I think they're amazing, and I'm also super grateful to everyone in our community who shared these. I have thoughts on this. So this person's been in the swinging lifestyle for quite a while. She says she has lots of experience and feels she can answer this with some perspective. So do I think that men with larger penises have more success in the lifestyle? No. There's a lot of bravado and a lot of talk about cock size, but I find that chemistry will override any preference people purport to have. The men who talk loudly about their size are an automatic next for me. I personally don't care at all. So yeah, this is a lot of people, I think, even just get turned off by like the focus on it, right? That like there's so much more. This person says the only true sexual advantage that anyone has in this lifestyle is by actually understanding that every person is different and that we all have different things that we're into. There was another good one here that I wanted to, this one's a little bit long, but I think it's important. So this person is he, him pronouns. It says, if we take the premise of question where all things being equal, I still believe the answer is no. It doesn't help in any way to have a bigger, all right. I'm going to use the term a bigger meat popsicle because
popsicle.
So you said, let's say the environment involves an orgy, where this, potentially this could happen where there's twins and one of them is bigger than the other. I'd expect slightly higher chance of interest due to the curiosity of experiencing a bigger dick, simply because of statistics and porn conditioning. People might think because he is bigger that perhaps they want to check it out, or that engaging is going to be more pleasurable. Then he says, contrary to popular belief, bigger isn't better. And this is where I can add my personal experience. As a moderately above average dick owner, it has been problematic. I can't engage in spontaneous sex without lube. Quickies are out of the question, as there needs to be lots of foreplay and warming to warm things up. Initial insertion requires me to heavily focus so that I don't lose my erection, given I have to penetrate people glacially slow. If I don't prep people, they can get tears and stretch cuts. I've been with people who've not been able to take me past a certain point because of cervical pain. I've also not wanted to go past a certain point because of hitting or getting stabbed by IUDs or being painfully bent down a throat. Most blowjobs finish quickly because of exhausted jaws, and I've often have to stop them because of teeth scraping. Certain acts like anal are simply a no-go because of fear and pain, and I've even experienced someone run off once when they saw me naked, which led to massive sexual trauma for me. I'm also not shy to share that I've been on the other end of this equation. I've felt bad about giving a toothy blowjob. I've felt the jaw exhaustion, and I've declined being penetrated by those with huge dongs. So that is the So
It's a
both
nice
sides of the equation.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, this is, I think what people often think of is, again, just bigger is patently better. There's no drawbacks. And what we see here is there's a lot that comes with that. You have to there's pros and cons to everything. And then to me, what I've experienced is it's really about who you are and knowing how to use what you have, whether it's bigger, smaller, right in the middle, whatever it is. If you don't know how to work with what you have, it's not going to work for anybody.
There you go. Because confidence is sexy.
Yeah.
So being confident in yourself, knowing what you have, what you like to do, being enthusiastic about who you're playing with. I think all of those things are
totally. Yeah.
huge.
I will share my last one, and then we can maybe move on because I feel like we've made the point. But this one says, being true to yourself and portraying that true confidence is by far the real key to success. As proof, I have a good friend who is short, has a belly, and a less than average sized penis, but has been the object of desire and play partner by literally hundreds of women. So bring yourself and be amazing. And what you're carrying in your pants is largely irrelevant or smallly irrelevant, whichever way it goes.
Or medium sized.
Or averagely irrelevant. Yeah.
Everyone's welcome. Yeah.
And I think, right, we know this conversation comes up often, and people will often say, well, size doesn't matter. It's about who you are. And then at the same time, I think you will, like you said earlier, find people who are size queens or who do have a specific preference for something. Yeah. And that is very real. But I think just keeping in mind that that's not the whole landscape that you're looking at, that maybe is that person, or there are some people who have that, or maybe they're just interested in trying something out for the night and that wasn't it. So I think just remembering that the bigger picture here is there's a lot more to it than your dick.
That is true.
Yeah.
Hopefully
all right.
That brings like joy and comfort. Some people might be like, "Aw, it's sad."
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens, and it's okay.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Well, do you feel satiated? Do you need to say penis, cock, or dick anymore before we move on to the next question?
No, I think we've covered the whole spectrum. I think we're good.
How about meat popsicle?
Popsicle? Okay, we might need to say meat popsicle one more time. That was actually really good, though.
All right. On to our next one. My question is regarding being in a quad. Long story short, we started swinging in December, and the very first couple we met had an instant, very strong four-way connection with. After our first play date, we became exclusive. The couple that we are with have been swingers for about 10 years, and there's been some discussion about the husband and I swinging together as an extension of our four-way relationship. Do you know of other couples who do this? Is that weird? What are the pitfalls? Can it be done without destroying what we have now? In some ways, I feel like we just got into it and now I'm back at square one. And I think the husband of the other couple really misses swinging. However, my husband and the wife of the other couple are super solid and have no desire to play with anyone else at all besides spouses, of course. So, quad questions, Meshai.
Yes.
Quad plus swinging.
Yeah. Quad plus swinging. That's a little intense.
It has potential. It has potential to be intense. So maybe the first question that came up was, do we know of other couples who have done this?
Yes. So you're definitely not alone. And there are the people who have done this as well. And, you probably have already thought about this, but I just want to state again that when you open it back up, it's a lot of moving pieces. So it's like you and your partner, then it's you all in the quad, and then it's now the quad opening up. So all of the things you had to process through and go through just for you and your husband to be able to open up is the same thing that you and the quad are going to have to do to open up again.
Yeah. It's a really interesting dynamic, right? To go from we just decided to open our marriage to then sort of closing back into a closed relationship structure and then reopening that structure again. So there's a lot of moving pieces here. And I will add too, yes, we've met other people who've done stuff like this. And that's really one of the beauties of non-monogamy is that you get to sort of rewrite all your own rules and agreements, and you can really do or try anything you want. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy at all. So there's definitely,
instead of one extra personality you got to think about, now you got to think about 3 at all times.
Yeah, without a doubt. Plus the people that you might be swinging with and how so the math gets very exponentially large.
Polymath.
Yeah. The next question officially was, is it weird? What do you think?
I mean, no. By the time if you were already here and asking these questions, I think we've crossed the definition of what would be conventionally weird a long time ago. And I think you're totally fine. You're with your people.
One thing I did want to mention about, I don't know if where it best fits in around this, but one thing that you might come up against, and this is something Emma and I came up against in our early days of swinging when we weren't married. We weren't in a quad at that point. We didn't have other partners, but we weren't married. And we actually got quite a bit of like pushback or people being really leery and skeptical of us because we weren't married. So I think, again, at this point, sort of, I think the bigger picture, we know that being married doesn't equate to security or stability. But what we came up against in the swinging world, and maybe this has changed, but that people really kind of do link those two. So they would see other couples who were not married as more of a threat or a risk. And I would say you might also get a little bit of that pushback when you start to talk about the fact that you've sort of come into a polyamorous dynamic or a closed quad dynamic, where that tends to freak people out in the swinging world. They often will say the line we often hear is, we don't do feelings. We're just here for the fun, or we're just here for the sex. And if you are then showing to people that like you can go deeper than that, or you want to go deeper than that, or you're open to it, that can really be trigger some fear in people. So just maybe something to think about as you tread into these waters.
I also had a couple of questions. So mine were like, what is the group's feelings about changing the dynamic of the group right now from a closed to an open one? And what are your feelings about the quad being in a different stage of the relationship? Like those kind of fundamental shifts. And then how do you guys come back together? What do you all want to know? What do you not want to know? So I also said, yes, I've heard of other people swinging outside of their quad, and that it's extra work, but it can be done. I've also heard of it causing a little bit of a rift, or you get these unexpected feelings of like, I opened up and was super happy and had a lot of compersion for, my partner being with the other partner. But now opening up, you have all of these like different emotions that didn't come up the first time around. So that might hit you. And so just wanted to say that that's there.
Yeah, that one I think is really an interesting one, because this is something, have heard this from other people, that they were totally cool with their long-term like spouse or partner that they had maybe a longer established stability with, swinging or hooking up with other people. But the thought of their new partner, that was like, whoa, no. Like it was too much to think about. And so that just a thing to think about, or to keep in mind that might come up, is you might have, you yourself might have different feelings about the different partners doing things, and your other partners might have varying feelings about you doing these things. So just, there's, again, as we kind of keep saying, there's a lot of moving pieces in a dynamic like this.
Yeah. I like that. I also was curious about the different bonds that would happen because of opening back up. So the people who are not swinging might grow really close, and the people who are swinging will have a completely different experience than the people who are not swinging. And are you all open and okay with such a difference of experiential engagement between the couples? And then how do you bring those different experiences back together without feeling disconnected from each other. I think that's really important to talk about and have maybe some type of ritual around coming back together, as well as what happens right before you all separate to go off, just so that the cohesion stays as important as the play, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think within that, right, the maybe one of the pieces that she kind of touched on in there was like, well, I feel like we just got into this and now we're back
Mm-hmm.
at square one. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what I hear in what you're saying is that, you know, the couple who wrote in,
Mm-hmm.
this was their first experience. And now if she's having swinging experiences with somebody else, again, there's nothing wrong with this, but just to think about the fact that those formative, quote unquote, formative swinging experiences you'll be having with somebody who you didn't actually get into swinging with initially. So it's just,
Yeah.
again, nothing wrong with that and not trying
Mm-hmm.
to judge any of this at all. It's just, these are some things to think about and some emotions that we kind of predicted could come up.
Yeah.
Not that they will or that you've done anything wrong, but just
Mm-hmm.
things that
Just in
maybe
case.
weren't top of mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you definitely, if you have an experience like feeling inadequate or like not good enough, and then you open back up and you're like, I have never had any of these feelings before, and now they're like popping up and I feel really awful about it. It might not happen, but if it does, just want to normalize that this actually happens for a lot of people, and that you're in good company
Yeah.
around that.
Right. Right. There was a question too in there of, can this be done without destroying what we have or what they have?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote on this one, I'm not really sure, but I would say no. And I think the thing that I would caveat that with is, rather than thinking of it as like destroying or destruction, that
Mm-hmm.
you can do these changes slowly, methodically, and sort of as a team, rather than just saying we're just going to blow it up, right? And I know they weren't
Yeah.
saying we're going to just blow it up, but I think the reality for me is, anytime you start to change the dynamic, right? When you opened your marriage the first time to say we're going to go swinging, like, you have fundamentally changed your marriage, right? There's no going back to a day when you weren't or hadn't had a swinging experience. So just by the definition of you doing new things like this, your partnership is going to change and the
Yeah.
quad dynamic will change. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the difference is that doesn't have to be destructive or destruction, but change will definitely be happening.
Yeah. 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 So what do you want the change to look like? How much change can you hold? And what do you not want to change? And being really honest with each other about that is important.
Yeah, and how fast, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that, I would
Yeah.
say slowing down on this, really thinking about how you're gonna move through these changes. What do they mean? Taking some time to process them, and being really curious and talking about what's going on, what's changing, and are there feelings that are happening that maybe aren't coming to the surface? Because that can be a scary thing when you start to catch the feelings and you're like, well, we were going to be swingers. We weren't going to have feelings. And now all of a sudden you start to have them. It can be scary to talk about them.
Yeah.
And if they're hanging out in the background or under the surface and they're impacting things, but they're not being talked about, that can be really, really tough to navigate. So I would just encourage you all to talk very openly and honestly about what's going on, because you're going to be going through a lot of changes. Just You are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big dynamic shift from like, because like for some people, the quad gets so tight that it feels like a equal and just as important relationship as the original two. And so when and if that does happen, when you open up, you then have certain emotions that get even more amplified. And so trying to figure out, how do we talk about this? Like, how do we make sure that, I'm not stuffing my emotions for the better of the group,
Mhm.
because that won't work either. You have to be honest and need to have safe spaces to talk about how one person's viewpoint might be different than the rest of the group's viewpoint, and that's welcome too.
Yeah, which under my section of quad pitfalls, which was the sort of the last question that she posed, is what you just said there, I think is what I feel is one of the harder or hardest parts about being in a quad is that there's quite a few, but one of them is that idea that maybe I'm feeling something different than the quad. And right, if you're in a standard, whatever the hell that is, dyadic partnership, right? It's you talking with your partner and being like, okay, here's how I feel. Here's how you feel. It's sort of one, not that you should be working against each other, but it's sort of one-on-one versus if you're like, I think we should rent the blue car and everybody else is like, we should rent the pink car. There's a lot of pressure, even if it's just perceived to keep up or keep going, to conform, to push past your boundaries. And so really keeping that in mind as you go through this, that like checking in with yourself, is this what I want to be doing? How do I want to be doing this? What does this mean for me? Because you may at some point, and likely will at some point, stray or have a different opinion than the other three people in the dynamic. And that can be a really hard place to be, where you feel like, well, if I speak up against this, I could be alone. Yeah.
And so sometimes I think like this can be really an intense relationship structure because there's just extra moving pieces that you have to continually keep checking in on. Like, is everybody excited? Are you guys happy with where things are going? And, some people might have not enough stamina to go where everybody else wants to go, and that's okay. But you have to have those safe spaces and those rituals to connect and to talk about the hard things, or it can get kind of crumbly if you're not able to do that and have those hard conversations.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I had a couple notes similar to what you just said about like people moving at different speeds and having different needs, different capacities. Right. If, maybe one of you works like 70 hours a week and you're exhausted all the time and the other ones aren't working as much. And you're like, well, can we slow down? Like, well, we don't need to slow down. We don't want to slow down. We're having a great time. Right. And there's kind of imbalances can show up, and it is just it's an intricate dynamic. The quad dynamic. Yes. So,
and all the relationships in the quad are super important. Even the non-sexual ones or the ones where you're just like emotionally connected, they're all equally important. So, it's very important to nurture all of them while you guys are also swinging and having different experiences.
Yeah. So I know that maybe seemed a little doom and gloom around it, but I think it can also be super fun. Like you could have extra people to come in and I will say too, there's no reason that at some point the other two might decide they're like, oh, this looks like fun. I would love to get in on that. Right. Like, I think that's the beauty of so much of this, right back to the beginning, is you can really do anything you want. And it's probably going to just be a lot of flux and change for quite a while. And maybe forever, right? That it's never really going to find homeostasis that just, oh, we did it and we're just going to cruise at, 30,000 feet forever. It's probably going to be up and down, tweaks and changes and lots going on, but it's exciting. It's an exciting place to be.
Yeah. And you're the cool thing about this, even if it was like just, 3 people, is that you have to be intentional about what it is you want out of a relationship, what makes you happy, what makes the other person happy. Like those conversations are always happening. And so you're just learning about your person. And we know that novelty helps to keep that spark alive. And so you're just creating spark and working on communication skills and getting to know someone. So being able to do that and then also be able to have fun and experience with other people, it's also pretty cool.
It is. And it's fun to do for yourself. It's fun to watch for your partners, and it can be really amazing. And I think that's one of the other beauties of this is as you go through these experiences, you start to find new things that you like and realize, well, maybe I didn't actually like this and I really like that, or I tried this. I thought I would be into it and I wasn't. So like, it's a whole world of like opportunities to explore. And now you got a whole lot of different bodies to do it with.
Very true. Very true.
So, all right. Well, do you feel like we've saved the world today, Meshai?
Yep.
From
from
penises to quads and everything in between.
We're just over here green crossing it. Yeah, we're doing a good job.
Do you have any other thoughts on either one, or thoughts just in general on this?
No, I thought they were both really good questions. I think size comes up a lot for people, and it's a yes and a yes all the way around. Yes, size does matter for people that it matters to, and for people that it doesn't, it's all about your personality and what you're bringing to the table. And for quads and swapping, more talking, all the talking, remembering why you're doing all of this in the first place and that it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fun, connective, and a lot of opportunity for personal reflection and growth and understanding. And yeah. Never a dull moment.
I like that about this, though, right?
Yeah.
And these questions are awesome. So thank you guys so much for bringing them in and for asking them. I think that there are questions that everybody else wants answers to as well. So.
Yeah, totally agree. And looking ahead again to next month, we'll be back at the end of July. So we'd love for you, as you're listening to this on your road trips around the U.S. over the 4th of July, or maybe you're just buried in a heat dome, sweating in front of the air conditioner. We would love your questions.
Opening the refrigerator.
That's right, living in the fridge. We love your questions, and we would love if you have one or two or three about compersion. We probably should have defined what compersion was back at the beginning, but I can say that real quick right here, which compersion is, generally speaking, you feeling happiness or joy for somebody else's happiness or joy. And so within the confines of non-monogamy, that often gets zeroed in on my sort of feelings of joy if Emma's out with somebody else on a date or has a great experience, and I'm, rather than feeling maybe jealous or envy, I experience happiness and joy. Here's a great example. If you go back and listen to episode 345 from last week with Taylor and Curran, you will hear what I think might be the pinnacle of compersion, but by no means a goal, because I think we all can put this up on a pedestal, but the reality is some of us feel it, some of us don't, some of us really struggle, and you don't have to meet any standard around compersion. So I just wanted to say that there's no better way to be around compersion than just being yourself.
I like that. It's a good answer. Okay.
All right. Until next month, I suppose, remember, you can find more information about how to reach out to Meshai and work with Meshai in the podcast show notes and at expansiveconnection.com. And you can reach out to both of us via our contact page. Send us an email, send us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have your question on. And if you have comments on our answers, we would love to hear those as well. So it's always fun to hear people tell us that they enjoy these episodes.
Yeah, that's cool too.
All right. Any last final thoughts, Meshai, or should we hit the road?
Happy 4th, everyone. Be safe.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you as well.
And we'll come back together another year older next month.
That sounds like a plan. All right.
All right. We'll see you then.
Okay. Bye.